Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 in a best of 3 between ZhukoDim and AmberT. This is round 1 of the Great Paradox Tourney. So in this one we're going to be seeing ZhukoDim on the allied side with the 4th armoured, and we have AmberT on the Axis side with the 352nd. Now I've just got to preface this by saying that ZhukoDim is currently rank 2 in the game, and then AmberT is currently rank 81 or something like that. So they both have significant ranked 1v1 experience. So I hope to see that come out during this game. But in general, just from first glance, 4th Armoured should absolutely trash 352nd Infantry. That's quite simply the matchup. It's very hard for the 352nd not to have their IG-18s and Pak-38s killed by things like the M4, like especially Abrams. If ZhukoDim chooses to put down Abrams at the start, the Pak-38s of AmberT are going to be having a pretty hard time wherever he rolls up. They can maybe get into ambush positions and engage from a shorter range than is normal, but in general that engagement is not going to go well once the MGs get on target, and the 352nd doesn't really have many elite AT guns. I think they only have one elite Pak-38 in phase A maybe, and then maybe like one elite Pak-40 in phase B. Not entirely sure, but something like that. A pretty infantry heavy start though for Zuko. Looks like he's going to be putting down multiple GMCs, most likely with the rifles in them, followed up by of course command infantry, and that's pretty much his entire start at the moment, plus the M4 Abrams. Okay, so that is going to come out at the start. Then we have on the side of AmberT, it looks like just a few units of Osttroopen placed down so far. So where do we think they're going to go on the map? It's probably going to be 4th Armoured's likely going to try and avoid engagements in the factory, I think. Maybe push on the top side quite heavily, and also maybe on the bottom side here. And then yeah, kind of circumnavigate this factory, get some mortars in. Then you can just pound that and roll in with the infantry afterwards once you've actually gained ground elsewhere. But AmberT looks to be putting down some more troops now, so let's have a look at what he has planned. That's 2 Panzerjäger 35Rs, plus a Befehl Panzer III. Quite an interesting combination. If that finds the M4, he might be able to get penetration if he gets within a certain range. However, I feel like Abrams is going to be in a pretty decent spot to actually kill all of those off before they even penetrate him. So yeah, that's interesting. IG-18 probably coming to the mid area, and then we have a Panzer 35R rolling down the bottom road and a unit of Fusiliers. So there is going to be some recon down here for AmberT. There's literally no recon for Zuko. I say that and then I look up here and he's put down a Bantam. Not the most reliable recon in the world, but still recon nonetheless. Only one unit, and an M8 cavalry coming down as well. Maybe that's just to provide some extra fire support into this area, because the 50 cal and I think the 30 cal that the M8 cavalry has is pretty damn useful, as well as the penetration. And if Zuko knows the matchup well, he will realise that the M8 cavalry is actually probably good enough to deal with the majority of these units as well. If the M8 cavalry gets a shot onto the Panzerjägers, that's going to be a kill. So there we go. Quite a long deployment though, that's for sure. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit, get the game underway. We'll see where we go from here, because I don't believe there are any adjustments really going down on either side. They're probably both waiting for the counter at this point. And off we go. Okay, cool. So let's have a look at where these troops are actually going. We've got units just spreading out on the bot side. Panzer 35Rs moving down to the bottom as well. That could be interesting actually, because the Panzer 35 will bump into just infantry, which should be nice. We have the Panzer III Panzerjägers coming up the top side of the factory. Whether or not they bump into the M4 Abrams remains to be seen, but there is quite a lot of infantry heading into this town area. M8 cavalry, what is that engaging? It is going to be firing at the Befehl Panzer III. Now, he doesn't really have to be worried about this Befehl Panzer III actually hitting anything, because it only has 4 accuracy and no veterancy. Abrams is rolling up here. The rifles are unloading. And they are going to be up against Osttruppen. Now, it looks like the rifles should be able to run down the Osttruppen relatively quickly. However, one thing that Zuko has to be careful of is if he allows these to be pinned down, the command isn't nearby just yet. Like, he needs to get this Abram right up in their face, and I think he's starting to realize that there's not too much on this top side. He might just be able to, like, literally fast move down the road there with the M4 Abrams and cut on through. Now, it's actually a Fusilier squad that's holding this road, and that's causing a loss of territory for AmberT quite significantly as well. And well, with the one unit of Osttruppen gone there, this one's going to be soon to follow if the rifles get in range, and they do. So now AmberT's relying quite heavily on the double Panzerjäger Befehl Panzer III combo. He knows there's an M4 Abrams, he's most likely seen it. For sure. Got to get these Panzerjägers into a position to ambush that, otherwise he's going to be in trouble. And on this bottom side, these haven't even been unloaded. AmberT is not even microing this at the moment. That's really bad. Looks like he's very concerned with like what's going on up here. Hasn't even like decided to move his units on the bottom side. Now I know AmberT is a really decent player from Wargame, but maybe Steel Division is not quite as much his forte. Osttruppen are making some ground though. This IG-18, however, is suffering to the M4 Abrams. It looks like the Panzerjäger is trying to have a go at the M4 Abrams, but that needs to be like a 3-on-1. Otherwise, this is going to happen. The Abrams is just going to kill them one by one. And AmberT is just going to lose so much pressure, which he already has. Like, especially not even using these units in the bottom side. Like, if this Panzer 35 was rolling forwards with these Grenadiers, then he could definitely make some ground down here against the infantry that's standing in his way. Because that infantry has nothing to kill the Panzer 35R, so that can just help pin those infantry squads down. Hellcat is firing at the Panzer III, and that's going to save it before it kills the M8 Cavalry. Looks like the Befehl Panzer III is going to get out of line of sight of the Hellcat, so that's okay, but Abrams is waiting to get a shot onto that. +2 already for Zuko. Seems as though he has completely overrun AmberT in this one so far. These Osttruppen just not standing up to the really high strength squads of rifles. The Panzerjäger Panzer III combo was, I think, questionable from the start, especially against the 4th Armoured. I would have definitely gone for more of a ambush-oriented Pak 38 sort of style in the early game if I was forced to play the 352nd in this matchup, rather than these very brittle Panzerjägers that will get popped by things like the M4 Abrams. You got to think about that before you actually, you know, bring them into the field, because now all of AmberT's tanks are dead. Panzer 35R has come up to reinforce some of these Grenadiers against the rifles, but there is a lot of territory loss right now. Those rifles or Osttruppen aren't going to last much longer. Again, still +2 for Zuko. And honestly, I think he's pretty much got this wrapped up, because there is no serious presence coming out of AmberT. I believe he's probably just got Panzerjägers on his AT rather than the Pak 38s. And I don't know, that seems like a bit of a mistake to me. Like, I would like to see an AT gun come out here at some point. Because even at the start of the game, AT guns allow you to engage infantry that's coming down the road, or even just like more Panzer 35s because they're cheap, right? You can engage the rifles from a distance in their GMCs before they unload, and that gives you the advantage with your own infantry. I would also have relied more on Grenadiers at the start than Osttruppen. Osttruppen are more like fill forces and suicide forces rather than, you know, straight up line infantry. And that's why the rifles have just ran over them so easily. But here we want to see the Panzer 35 get into line of sight of the rifles so that he can provide covering fire. Osttruppen need to engage there as well. Grenadier need to make sure they don't surrender, which is what's happening. M8 Cavalry has, however, zoomed on into the back line, and a +3 now for ZhukoDim. So 120mm mortar has been purchased. That's going to start hammering some rifles. Not entirely convinced of that purchase. Another Panzerjäger 35 are going to be on the way. Quite simply, I feel like Zuko is just slowly but surely overrunning the entirety of AmberT's forces, especially with the arrival of more rifles here, hammering into the Grenadiers and Fusiliers. It's interesting to see such a large infantry presence on the map. Like, the amount of rifle squads we can see here is absolutely insane. We haven't even come into phase B yet, and here comes the B-26B Marauder. We're just going to start pinning down these Grenadiers and allow the rifles, or at least one of the squads, to start running forwards, because what you can do here is basically get one of your rifle squads to keep going forwards so that you keep them revealed, and then you have the other rifle squad remain at a distance. And here AmberT makes a vital mistake, brings in an ME-109G0 against a B-26B Marauder. That is never going to work, just never going to work. Just because the B-26B Marauder can make the ME-109G0 fall back before, you know, it barely takes any damage itself, which is exactly what happened there. So there we go. Grenadiers and Fusiliers forced to fall back now as the rifles just continue to start running them down. We're on 74% territory lead for Zuko. This is pretty nuts. He's already at like 885 points. B-26B Marauders still strafing around. ME-109G0 coming out again for another go at the B-26B, but with the 50 cals firing up from the M8 Cavalry plus the 50 cals on the B-26B, just doesn't stand a chance. The other thing that makes the B-26B have such a great advantage is that it can fire while it's turning. Whereas fighters, for example, have to be head-on, have to have the enemy plane in front of them, and that's quite a big deal when it comes to dogfighting. Right, the Hellcat's rolled up here. That's going to help with HE ammo, I assume, to kill some of these Fusiliers. I would likely see Zuko try and get the 50 cal on target. Surprised that the M4 Abrams isn't moving forwards as well, especially with all of these units. You could literally, like, attack move all of these forwards at this point. He knows he has such an advantage, or at least he should do. And even down here, M8 Cavalry actually killed off a Panzerjäger. That is just tragic. +4 now for Zuko. 5 minutes and 40 seconds until victory. B-26B Marauder now also hammering the Panzer 35R. Second B-26B going to be arriving. And I think Zuko's barely lost a unit. He might not have lost a unit entirely throughout this game. I can't quite think of a unit that he might have lost. Like, all of his rifles are still alive. Yes, they've lost men, like in terms of health. But has he lost like a single man? I'm not entirely sure. I guess we'll find out afterwards. Panzer 35R does have line of sight almost onto the Bantams. We might see that go down, but B-26B Marauder just going to continue to strafe that. And it looks like rifles might even cause it to surrender, which would be kind of tragic for AmberT. But AmberT's now in a situation where there's no coming back, really. I don't know. I wasn't convinced about the Panzerjägers, and it seems to have shown. And now bringing them in one by one is never really going to work. Especially if he continues to bump into the M4 Abrams. Because that can just pick them off one by one. Just as easy. And that's going to be surrender there. The rifles just making that surrender. That's nice to see. B-26B Marauder going to now be strafing this infantry. And that's probably going to cause even more surrenders, especially with the Grenadier now actually revealed. And with the Grenadier revealed, if they die, that means the Panzergrens can now surrender if they get low health or low morale. Same with these Osttruppen. And that's going to open up the bottom side even more. Might even push us to a +5. Pretty crazy stuff. A unit of ZhukoDims did go down there, but they traded for the Grenadier and the Grenadier. Now they've just got to take care of the Osttruppen, and that should open up the entirety of the bottom side of the map. We've gone to 81%, +4 already. 50 cals are targeting the ME-109G0s quite handily, and even with 2 of them now, it's not going to be enough. AmberT surrenders. What a whitewash that was. ZhukoDim winning the game after 10 minutes and 43 seconds. He lost 35 points worth of troops, 615 kills. What did he actually lose? He lost the 1 unit of rifles to a Befehl Panzer III and the armoured leader that we saw at the bottom. That is all. Then he killed absolutely tons with Abrams, and the Hellcat came in there and picked up a couple of tank kills as well. B-26B Marauder got credited the Panzer 35 kill when it got surrendered, and the M8 Cavalry took out another Panzerjäger. These Panzerjägers just not performing in this game, and I guess the main issue here is what AmberT needed to do was make sure that the Panzer III plus the 2 Panzerjägers were all fighting the M4 at the same time. That would be the first thing. But then the second thing is maybe not bring them in the first place. I think I'd much prefer just spamming out Pak 38s. I guess there's 2 ways to look at it though, because the 4th Armoured could always use the M21 mortar carriers, and of course there are the B-26B Marauders that will pin down your Pak 38s. It's just ambushing shots. That's what you got to look for. And this matchup, 352nd versus 4th Armoured, is terrible nonetheless. So commiserations to AmberT for losing the first game, but there is a second game, and hopefully he can come back and we will see 3 games in the best of 3, because I know that both players are decent at the game, especially Zuko. Zuko obviously knowing what he's doing, and showed us that in this game. So there you have it. Game 1 of the best of 3 between Zuko and AmberT, going in Zuko's favour. Hopefully you join me for the next one. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.